The EBR school system has a new capo di tutti copy. Don't worry about it. I'll explain it after the music. Roll it, Kirk. Italian. It means boss of all bosses. So the new school superintendent, Lamont Cole, is here with us. How does it feel, Superintendent Cole?
How do I feel? How does it feel?
Both.
Oh, I feel wonderful, man. Everything is lovely. How it feels, amazing. Still, a little bit overwhelming. Still seems as if though I'm living in a dream. But I can tell you, in reality, we're ready to work. We're ready to do this work.
The journey, the serpentine journey you took from when you first were interested in this to now be appointed unanimously has been something. What did you learn about that journey?
Timing is everything. Yeah. Everything you want when you want it is not necessarily what's supposed to happen for you at the time you want it to happen. I wasn't
What's the
looking
saying?
for
if you want to make God laugh, tell him your plans.
Tell him all your plans, and there's another saying that says, we plan, God plans, and God is the best of all planners. So, so for me, learned a lot about people, learned a lot about myself.
What'd you learn?
I learned I could accept not being chosen at the time I wanted to be chosen. I learned what's for me is for me, no matter what. And I learned, there are times when we have to work in spaces that we find ourselves in and complete some work, right? It may not be an opportunity, or it may not be the time for us to transition into another role until we've completed some things. Had I been selected superintendent back in 2020, I would never have completed a fourth term or a second term on the Metro Council and been selected as the mayor pro tem. And so I sincerely appreciate having had that experience. I learned a lot about that.
So you actually have already answered a question I was going to ask you, like, is it better now or would it have been better then? But you've answered because of what you've been able to do. As the council president, basically, what did you learn from that experience?
How to work with people. Being a council president is a different role than being a council member. Council member, you advocate, fight for, work with, and try to ensure the constituents you represent receive basic services. So you want to work with the city to do that. But then being a council president, it was really about messaging to the world about how we do business in the city of Baton Rouge, parish of East Baton Rouge. So it's about managing 11 other personalities, ensuring that I treated them all fairly, gave them the appropriate amount of time to express themselves. Where there were really serious issues, show some leeway, show some grace. There are times when I needed to break up the monotony and share a joke or be comedic at times. And so learned a lot about just engaging with people who think differently at times, even my Democrat colleagues as well as the Republican colleagues. Oftentimes we think differently about the work we're doing. But more importantly, what I learned is we all want the same things. We want to live in safe environments where our families have access to opportunity, health care, and entertainment, where our children get education and have options.
So, you come into this job as school superintendent after a long period of infighting. The board meetings have been candidly a spectacle, and I think you do have a calming presence about yourself because of what I saw you do with the Metro Council. You and I can remember when those council meetings were
were very different. Very different.
WrestleMania in a couple of them, and here you are now stepping into this role. And again, I'm not casting any aspersions on anyone personally, but people have seen what they've seen. What's the first thing you can do to bring back some decorum and to hopefully focus the board and your district in a direction of progress?
Well, I think the relationship between the board and the superintendent has to be one of trust. And I think the first thing I can do is try to establish a foundation of trust with every board member in terms of how we engage with each other, the conversations we have, spending time. That's the oldest way in the book to establish a foundation of trust. Be honest when I know, share what I know. When I don't know, be honest about not knowing. And when my relationship with a board member requires me to go research and find information and answers, I need to be able to do that in a timely fashion. I think it starts with the simplistic objectives that we have as individuals on personal relationships as well as our business relationship, right?
Yeah.
I think in the business relationship with a board member, we're about the business of educating children. And so when we have conversations where we differ, can't take anything they might feel, see, think, or perceive personal. Because it's not about me, it's about the children. And I can't be the type of individual who, if a board member chooses to not agree with me or has a different perspective based on his or her own experience, can't take that personal. Just have to be willing to offer up what I see, what I think, allow the data to drive my decisions, and then be honest and transparent in a timely fashion with board members so that we can begin to build a relationship of trust. And then as we build that relationship, then insert some of what I've learned on the Metro Council about how we should conduct ourselves in meetings in a way that sends a message to the world. Not to just the city, but to the world.
Well, listen, we're going to take a quick break and come back with the school superintendent to talk about his first 100 days and what we can expect as the school year begins on August 8th, just around the corner. Back with Superintendent Cole in just a moment. Hey, you know, if you've got that WAFB app, you're going to be able to catch the newest offering, the C-Suite podcast that I'll be hosting. It'll be dropping every Monday. Conversations with not only movers and shakers, but informative, enlightened people in the capital region. That's the C-Suite podcast. Episode number 1 is actually going to be recorded today, and my guests will be Dr. Steve Caparata, the new chief meteorologist, and Jay Grimes, who cannot stop smiling. I don't know why. Maybe because he's getting away from Johnny Asian. We're continuing our conversation with our new school superintendent, Lamont Cole. Man, I want to start this segment talking about your working relationship or planned working relationship with the very popular Adam Smith. What's your plan?
Well, you know, the plan is to continue the working relationship we already have. I've known Adam Smith for 22 years, and so we already have worked well together when we were both assistant principals in the East Barons Parish School System, when we were both principals in the system. I'll tell you an interesting story. When Adam and I were assistant principals, we observed principals who did not wear suits and ties to work. We observed that as assistant principals. And one of the agreements he and I made together is that when we were to become principals, we would always wear a suit and tie. We would always work to be the example for young people that we take the work serious. So our relationship around public education goes a long ways back. So we've always worked together and had a very, very respectful relationship. We don't always agree on what's best, but we have always agreed to support each other even when we didn't agree about what we thought was best for students. And so I plan to continue that working relationship. You know, there are going to be very clearly defined roles and responsibilities. You know, he's the deputy superintendent, I'm the superintendent. And so we're going to define those roles and separate duties and responsibilities. But ultimately, I'm the superintendent of East Barons Parish School System, and you know, it all starts and ends with me at a certain point. I'm going to have a moment of grace, a bit of a honeymoon period, so to speak. But I do know that there are going to be families and stakeholders who are expecting me to make the appropriate adjustments, and I'm going to have to make some tough decisions at times.
Well, listen, let's jump into the weeds, man. You've got a more than $700 million budget, 83 schools, I believe, 40,600.
73 schools.
73 schools, over 40,000 children, a little less than 5,000 employees.
A little bit more than 5,000.
A little more than 5.
So I want to be clear about something. We have 73 schools in our portfolio. 14 charter schools, 87 schools total under the EBR portfolio. So we have 73 direct run schools that we run. So 14 high, 14 middle, and then 45 elementary.
A lot of responsibility.
That's right.
An enormous budget.
That's right.
So what's your game plan? Because you got money.
Start with children. Are we using the money to serve our students?
How do you bust
in
up
the
silos?
most effective way possible? We allow the data to drive the decisions. So in the first 100 days, we evaluate every aspect of the school system, gathering data points, and then as we go along the way, what we find that needs to be adjusted right away, we adjust it right away.
Hold on now, let's lean into that. So the first time you go to your board meeting, your first 100 days, and you talk about these silos you're going to bust up and the ways you're going to do things, and when people show up with pitchforks and baseball bats, what's going to be your game plan?
Is your pitchfork and your baseball bat in an effort to protect, serve children, or is it in an effort to protect and serve adults?
I like it. And what about whipping votes with your board members who I'm going to be polite, say have differing views about how things ought to go?
Our perspectives about serving children or our perspective about protecting adults. Because when those tough decisions come, the data has to drive protecting and serving children. What does the data tell us about how we protect and serve children in ways that keeps them safe and educates them at high levels? And if the data is telling us something different, that the decision is about adults or protecting and serving adults to maintain a status quo, we have to really have a tough conversation about what that looks like.
I told Perry before we started the segment, the one thing I know about you is that you won't be bullied or pushed around, and I think that that's in the best interest of children. Dr. Lamar Gorey, who's the most recent superintendent in Caddo Parish, used to always say, I'm going to choose the children the first time and every time. So no matter what, I'm choosing the children. I got a minute left. What will EBR schools look like under Superintendent Cole?
Safe environments for students, number one. Happy, healthy environments for staff, number two. And then a place that all of the community can be proud of, number three. Our parents and all of our stakeholders can be proud of, because we're going to go out of our way, bust our behinds, work extremely hard to make sure we're protecting and serving our children. So when they finish the K-12 experience, they have options. We don't know what they will choose, but it's our job to prepare them so that when they make a choice, they can make an informed choice and a skilled choice, because we prepare them well.
Superintendent of Schools here in East Baton Rouge Parish, congratulations,
Thank
brother.
you, thank you, I appreciate it.
Last week I had a conversation, the superintendent mentioned some charter schools. I've got two representatives from charter schools who will join me in the next couple of segments. And next week, Julio Malera with the Baton Rouge Business Report and 225
Good
magazine will be on the show with us, and there is where you can catch us. You know, there's been a lot of discussion about education lately, and actually I'm pretty excited about the talk at EBR schools now because of the guy at the helm, but there's also other education activity happening here. The charters are growing. Samantha Johnson with Collegiate Academies, Marissa Carroll with Basis is here, and so the year is starting. What mood are you in right now as you're getting ready to welcome our youngest and best assets back to your buildings?
We are thrilled to have our students back. Our students actually come back next week on Thursday, August the 1st. And we have done a summer's worth of overhauling and getting ready, and we can't wait to see their smiling faces back.
So, you know, it's interesting. You think 20 years ago you only had a handful of charters around, and now there's so many charters here, and you guys have different models for the way that you engage these kids. Sam, what informs the collegiate model and the way that y'all go about doing business?
Yeah, thank you so much for asking. At Collegiate, we are a high school only CMO because we really believe high school, it's never too late to change a kid's trajectory for the better. And we really stand on this model of all means all, which means no matter if the kid had an amazing K-8 experience or maybe had some challenges, some stumbles around the road, we believe they can come to us and they're going to graduate from college as learners and leaders by doing that work with us.
And then Basis, you've got a couple campuses here. The first one is out by Women's Hospital on Airline Highway. The other one is in Mid-City. What informs the Basis model?
Right, so our Basis Mid-City is our K through 5, which is where I'm the head of school. And we pride ourselves on our Basis curriculum, as well as being innovative with the delivery and working to meet the needs of each individual child. We have a 2-teacher model in our lower grades, kindergarten through 3rd grade, to really get in there and have an opportunity to measure where the children are and then work with them to bring them where they need to be successful in life, to move on to high school and college.
You know, I had this conversation with someone recently about charters, and I don't think people often realize that charter schools are public schools too. It's just a little bit of a different model. Let's talk about the kids, the students that come in. And I was saying to you before we started the segment that, you know, years ago you go in with your lesson plan, you teach, the kids go home, you assign work. Now you are treating a lot more of the holistic individual when they're in your classroom. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I think right now, especially in this post-pandemic time, right, not only are we dealing with lost learning that happened over that time, but we're also dealing with, especially in high school, kids who have so many competing priorities. Maybe they're working, maybe they are contributing to the family with like childcare. They're dealing with some repercussions of like street violence. So we're coming in just like really holistically caring about the child, right? And having a ton of empathy about what that means without dropping expectations for what we know they can't do. Because we know while they need a ton of empathy right now, they also need folks that are gonna like push them to meet their limitless potential.
Same thing, Marissa.
Same thing at Basis Mid-City. We are very lucky to have several different departments on our campus that support the children in what their needs are. We have a student affairs department that works on meeting the social and emotional needs of the children, as well as any other maybe discipline, maybe positive support that they may need to get back in that classroom and learn, because we know anytime they aren't with their teacher and with their peers, it's a learning loss. And as Sam's mentioned, we are all still feeling the cost of the pandemic and the learning loss throughout the pandemic. So we're trying to be very innovative in what we do on our campus to keep the children engaged and to keep them in the classroom and to make sure we meet their needs holistically.
How do you meet the social and emotional needs of children in 2024? How do you do that?
It's a challenge. I think it starts with understanding who the child is. It starts with understanding where they're coming from. We work with the parents, and we have a very open relationship with our parents. We realize that the parents choose us. We are, public charter, but the parents have chosen to trust us with their most prized possessions. And so we have to understand where the parent is, what the parents' priorities are, and we do believe that their priorities lie within education because they have chosen us and they believe that we're going to do right by their children. So we engage the team with the information that we receive from, of course, not only test scores, but from the families and from prior teachers and prior experiences that the child has explained they have. And we develop a program for them to move forward with what they need to be successful that year.
I love this. And when we come back, we'll talk with Marissa and Sam about preparation for the new year, maybe some things parents ought to be thinking about now as they get ready to send their kids back to school. And then during the school year, what are some good practices that you can employ to make certain that your kids are locked in and ready to win this school year? We'll continue with Sam and Marissa in just a moment here on the Clay Young Show. Still talking about the school year that's getting ready to start, and our best and brightest are getting back to business. Marissa and Sam are still here. You were telling me during the break, you have how many kids between the two campuses?
Between our Basis Mid-City and our Basis Matera campuses, we have right over 1,400 students.
Whoa. How many kids are on the collegiate campus?
Yeah, at our singular campus here in Baton Rouge, we are shooting for about 530 this year and quickly rising. And then our New Orleans campus.
You're also in New Orleans. That's the one I went to first with a dear friend of ours, Stacy Martin, who's on is board chair? President of the board, and she is a force to be reckoned with, and I told him she's somebody you just can't say no to. Let's talk about the upcoming school year. Okay, if parents are thinking about getting their kids in position to really win, what suggestions would you give them? Don't all answer at one time.
I think when thinking about the high school landscape, right, like getting kids passionate about reading is something that's just so important.
Yeah.
And I know there's so many competing priorities, and social media is the bane, but like kids love it, right?
Yeah.
But figuring out how to get kids like reading is going to be so key. So I think that's a big one. And then for our families, really important to just like get to know your kids' teachers, right? We do a ton at Collegiate Baton Rouge and see our families truly as partners in this work. So we want to reach out for everything, because when we're on the same page, kids can just get so much further.
And agreeing with Sam, we also, even though we're K-5, we have social media. Our 4th and 5th graders are ready. But we also have a bit of an advantage, and we offer jiu-jitsu. We have a Mandarin class. So we always tease with guys, you can't wait to see Professor Pizzolata, that Mandarin, that jiu-jitsu. We have drama, we have art, we have music. So they really get excited when they first come back. And I'm very blessed to have educators who incorporate even into his jiu-jitsu class, journal writing on what they've learned. And you just have to really be innovative because we are competing with so many other things. And we do, of course, still have students who can think of lots of other places where they'd like to be, but we actually did a school supply drop-off yesterday. That's awesome. So many of our students came back, and they're ready to come back. And so I encourage their parents just to continue to support and encourage them, support their nervousness, because of course we all know they, it happens to even me. I haven't slept in a week. And reach out to us so that we can be prepared if there's something that we need to know about the child, so we can make sure they're comfortable when they come through the building.
It's funny because I have been on both of your campuses and I've seen the professor teaching the class and watching how engaged the kids are. And the same at Collegiate. I went to one of your campuses in New Orleans and have been to the one in Baton Rouge. In fact, I have a part of one of the sashes from the graduating, first graduating class.
Yeah.
It's in my office. The charter model allows you to nuance the way you engage the kids in a way that traditional schools don't always seem to have the liberty to do. What advantage does that give you when you can freshen the model of how you engage kids?
We have BASIS foundationally stands on this, we call them subject expert teachers. And so although some of our teachers don't have a traditional, go to college, become a teacher, they maybe go the traditional route and they're alternatively certified. So we have people who actually have degrees in physics who are teaching our physics classes.
Right.
And that gives them the opportunity to do things that they would do out in the community, that they would do out in that field. They can bring it to the classroom and they can give it to the children in a way that, had I just gone to LSU and become, an educator, I may not be able to meet them where they needed to be. And so we really do have an opportunity. We also offer an engineering class. So we can incorporate some of those same things from the physics and chemistry classes into our engineering classes and make the connections for the children in a different way that we wouldn't be able to if we didn't offer all those course offerings.
I love that. I had some folks from Helix Academy here last week talking about all the Helix campuses around Baton Rouge and really around the region, because there's one in Opelousas, I believe, as well. So quickly, where can people learn more about Collegiate and BASIS? I got less than a minute. Where can they go?
Collegiate Baton Rouge .org. You can find us there. Look us up. We still might have a couple seats left, and for anyone, have an amazing school year. It's going to be a good one.
Yes, absolutely. BasisEd.com, same thing. We have a few seats left at Mid-City, and we're excited to get going.
I love the jiu-jitsu part. I get him to come in here with Johnny Asian one day
Absolutely.
and tie him up into knots or something.
Absolutely. We can make that happen.
You heard that, Asian. Next week, we'll talk about a conference coming to New Orleans. We'll have some people here to tell you about it. It involves law enforcement, and there's where you could catch us online and on social. Y'all have a great weekend.